content. It's limitless. We're going to talk about it today.
Hello, everyone. Very excited to introduce you to Nicolas Tessier.
Hello. Tessier, yeah.
He's the co-founder of WAN, and he does a very interesting startup about bringing NFTs and AR together. He has lots of agency experience in creating AR and VR. It's quite interesting because I've also had an agency background in AR, VR, and we've done this VR metaverse stuff for a long time with all NFTs, and now this is coming together. So that's why we actually have quite a lot of background in there. And yeah, I'll let you explain a bit more.
Yeah, no worries. So first of all, before I even introduce myself, I'm going to check the time. I don't know if I have 1 hour, 2 hours. You tell me when you're bored, and I'm going to stop talking. I'm happy to work like you guys like. So you can ask questions, you can, so, and everything that I'm going to tell you today, I already know. So it's more for you guys, and tell me what you're interested in. I have a lot of content, so we'll probably not have the time to go through everything. But I've prepared, I'd say, 2 main parts of that presentation or that conversation or workshop, call it the way you want. The first part is about, it's that actually, what is the future of experience? How does, you know, those new technology influence the way we design experiences nowadays and brands connect with their audiences? So it's really like brand focused. And then the second half is about, sorry, I scared myself. The second half is about a project that I'm working on that I've been developing for quite a long time, and that we're starting to work on a bit more seriously with the team. And I'd love to tell you all about it and get your opinion and feedback or anything, and even potentially give you some assignment if you're interested in working on anything. So let me start by telling you a little bit about myself, not because I want to brag about anything, but just so you understand where I'm coming from and what do I know, what do I don't know. And I'm not going to pretend that I know everything about what I'm going to be talking about today. So I have a bit of I think I've got like 3 things in my background. A lot of agency work, but what used to be seen as advertising, but I was more in the experiential side. So anything that actually creates real experiences for people, not just necessarily a TV ad, but any experience, whether it's online, whether it's in the physical space. So I've done a lot of that working for companies like I Love Events or Jack Morton, which is one of the biggest on the planet. And currently I'm doing some freelance work for a company called Imagination, which is, once again, one of the biggest experience design agency on the planet. But I am also an entrepreneur. So to be very transparent with you, I moved from agency to become an entrepreneur. It didn't really work out. So I got broke. So I had to go back to work. And so I'm doing that quite a lot. So when my bank account is in a good state, I normally leave the corporate world because that's not the place that I like the most. And I try to do my own stuff. Sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't. So when it doesn't, I need to go back to the corporate world and put my bank account back in the green. So I did that a couple of times in my career. And the 2 big corporations that I've been working with, one is Telstra. They were a big client of mine, and my job was really special. So I was the general manager of retail innovation. And the reason why I was interested in that gig is because that's what I love, which is creating experiences that connect the physical and the digital world together. And my job was to redesign the retail environment, physical and digital. Then my bank account was in the green. That's good. I tried to launch the product that I'm going to talk to you about today, and it was probably too early, and you will probably understand why. So I've learned a lot of stuff, but couldn't launch it properly. So I went back to the corporate world, and this time I was hired a little bit by mistake through connections by a company called CBRE. They're a very, very big real estate agency, like corporate real estate. And my job was to actually redesign, once again, experiences that connect physical and digital. So we had an app that enabled people to connect with their buildings. So how do you get in, get out, order a coffee, order like your gym, and participate into activities and stuff. So that was my job for a couple of years, and I had a global role in doing that. And then after a couple of years, me being a little bit of a maverick, I don't really last very long in very well-organized companies where there's a lot of rules, and I can only deal with that for however long I can. And normally after a couple of years, I'm more like, okay, now I need a break. So that's where I am today. I'm having a break of the corporate world. I'm being a freelancer, so I work for a few agencies. When they have a big project and they need a strategist or an experienced designer, they normally call me. But I'm also kind of a perma freelancer for Imagination. I'm working 3 days a week for them, and I'm working on projects like creating NFTs for big bands in the UK, potentially building like NFT strategy for big brands in Australia that would not necessarily think about having an NFT project. I'm also building a lot of virtual that connects the physical space. So I can't really tell you exactly for which brand because a lot are under NDA, but I'm doing a lot of that. And I'm also doing some freelancing for Google, same, helping them design experiences and change the way they interact with people more through experiences than advertising. So I'm doing probably a day or two a week working with Google. So that's me. And obviously, because that's not enough, I'm building that startup. So that's taking me quite a lot of time on the weekend and at night, but it's manageable so far. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is, and that's some of the brands that I've been working with, but I think that anyone that has more than 5 years career in any agency on the planet can put pretty much any logo on the page, and I'm sure you probably have the same, if not more. And so it doesn't mean much. Anyway, so the reason why I wanted to talk to you about that today, because could have come up with a few different topics, but just so you understand the way we actually speak to brands today. Like that presentation that I'm going to show you today is a presentation that we have presented for the first time to clients last week. And a lot of the clients are coming to us saying, hey, what the hell is Web3? What is the thing we're hearing about? Should we be in the metaverse? Should we have NFTs? Should we be building blockchain things, have our own token and currencies? And why should we? And if we do, how is it going to change the way we connect with our communities? So a lot of people come with a lot of questions. And because it's so new, we try to give them answers, but I would not pretend that we have the answer because I don't think anybody does. It's almost like, in my opinion, we are in the Windows 95, if it speaks to you guys, of that world, which we can call Web3, just so we know what we're talking about. But even Web3, what does that mean? I mean, it's pretty much everything and nothing, but it's just a new way of building experiences, connecting, designing new products. And in my opinion, what I love is really connecting the physical and the digital space, but also decentralizing the way things are being owned and community owning products more than just one person centralized. Anyway, I just found that as well, which is actually, I don't know if you guys have seen that report. I'm happy to share it with you. I think it's open source, it's online. It's actually a report by JP Morgan, which is one of the biggest bank on the planet, which probably would have been the last place that I would have expecting to see any report from, but it's available. And once again, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share any document that I'm going to show you today. So happy to, not that deck, unfortunately, because it doesn't necessarily belong to me, but any document that I'm going to reference to, everything's available and open source. What it says, one chapter that I think was interesting, and the reason why I think it's important for us to have that conversation today is because actually they're wondering, okay, what is the workforce of the future? So it's about training new designers and developers with specialization in 3D modeling. So you guys are learning design, and I know it's not graphic design and it's more like strategic design, but that's kind of, okay, now those companies are wondering, okay, what is our role? How do we actually train the workforce of the future? There's also something around the content and the content creators. You guys are probably familiar with the creators economy, and we're going to talk about it today, how everybody can create content, make money off creating content and sharing that content with the community. events actually, and the event producers that are creating a lot of events in the physical space. What does that mean in the metaverse or in the digital space? And also like the notion of community that's becoming more and more important. So there's a few roles and new roles that we will need, or we already need today. I'm telling you, we need them today. But big organizations are already thinking about where are we going and how do we actually train the new workforce. So in my opinion, if you guys do a good job in what you're doing right now, you should be in a good position to find a job. Right. So today I'm going to talk to you about what are the big trends that are shaping the new world, because we're going to be talking about technologies and the metaverse and all of that, but it has to be taken into the consideration of macro trends and human behavior, because that's what it is at the end of the day. We're going to talk about those new technologies and how they influence the way we can create experiences and the way people experience with each other or brands. And I've got a little focus on retail because the last clients that I spoke with, they were retailers. So we'll see if we have the time to go through it, but it may not be as relevant for you guys. Once we will be finished with that, we might, I don't know, have a break and everything. And then I'm going to show you the startup that I'm working on, which is actually I hate saying that, but you will understand better if I do. It's kind of the TikTok of the Web3 world. So if TikTok is about video, what I'm building is about 3D content. And I'll explain to you why and how. Any question, comments? No? I might have a few questions for you before we start. Let's do that. How familiar do you think you are in all of the things we've been talking about, whether it's Web3, NFT, metaverse, blockchain, any of those words? Who, on the scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not at all, 10 being very much, who is between 0 and 5? Amazing. Just to make you feel better, that was me 12 months ago. Yeah, compared to my mom, you're probably 9. Huh? I'm just telling you already those words you understand. You speak English to start with, but yeah. So, okay, now who think you would be between 5 and 7? Okay. Who is like a specialist above 7, between 7 and 10? Okay, I put myself around 7 as well. And I'm going to tell you why. Not because I'm an expert and I can, like code and do anything, but I've been doing a lot of research. And I think that compared to the rest of the world, I think my knowledge is probably a little bit better and more advanced. But I think anyone saying that is a 10 is probably a liar anyway. So no one is, and we don't know. And a 10 to them might be a 5 in 5 weeks. All right, let's go. Same, if you have any question or if topic is not necessarily out of interest, or if you're lost because I'm talking too fast or I'm talking about a concept you don't understand, we are going to stop and we're going to talk about it. It's also a good exercise for me. So feel free to do it. Really, like, I'm in your team, guys. Okay, what are the big trends? So first of all, there are macro trends that are shaping the world, and looking at any technology or any new ways without looking at them would be making a mistake. Obviously, COVID, in my opinion, has got us to stop and think a little bit differently and rethink about some of the habits that we had. So some of them might stay. So that had a big impact, and it's not like it's gone. We're still kind of in there. So it's still in our head. Climate change is a big topic, especially with the younger generation. So that is going to become a focus, and probably a lot of the decisions we're going to be making in the future, hopefully, are going to be made with the impact on the climate into consideration, like top priority. Digitization, obviously it's been around for 20 years, but what I'm talking about digitization is pretty much digitization of everything. How that chair is going to become connected, and that table and us and our every movement and every collaboration and conversation. So like the digitization of all parts of our life. And the last one is something that you guys might be interested in, but I think in 2 years' time, the Gen Z is going to be in majority in the workforce. So up to you guys, over to you. You're going to be in charge and we're going to be doing whatever you tell us to do. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. Some are scared about it and some are just, oh, wait, but we don't work the same way. Oh, it's not, I like it. Okay, so those big trends is getting people's mindset to evolve. So obviously people are trying to be more responsible. There's a big lack of trust in the brands. So people tend to trust their peers more than they trust brand. It might feel like normal to you, but it's kind of new, not new, but newish to us. There is the self-centered, so looking at ourselves and how do we as individuals get healthier and we take care of ourselves and we train ourselves. And then the I want it all the time. We were like that a little bit. You guys are like big time like this. Would you agree with that statement? Yeah, okay. Looks like you do. So that's driving new behavior. So the creator economy, we spoke about it. There's more and more people actually getting online and starting to actually share their opinion or their knowledge and sometimes making a business of it. Well-being is becoming a bigger part of our daily routine. Hybrid, which is like started probably with COVID, saying, oh, do I work from home, work from the office? Do I go to uni or not? Actually, we don't have the choice. You're going to be doing it from home. But that hybrid world and not necessarily going all the time to a physical space is becoming more and more important. And the community things, which we've been talking about. And all of that is powered by transformative technology. So VR, which is that immersive technology, it's not that it's new. I mean, you've probably been working on it for more than 10 years, but it started to become more mainstream. Nowadays, you can buy a VR headset that's not tethered to anything for like $500, which might feel like a lot of money when you're a student. But I'm telling you, compared to what it was before, it's like half of nothing. It's actually half of the price of an iPhone. Real-time VFX, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. It's more for the event world and how we can actually bring through camera feed like real physical digital image in the physical space. And then we're going to talk about the metaverse and the NFTs, which are not necessarily technologies, but they are like supported by technologies. And all of that is fueling the experience economy. Okay, so that's the last piece of lecture, then we're going to get into case studies. What I call the experience economy, it's the fact that brands are now building experiences more than advertising. So it's not about what we say, it's about what we do. And getting the new generation, especially, but pretty much the consumer in general, into experiences is becoming more and more valuable and more important in the way brands are building their marketing mix. Okay, stop for the lecture. Now we're going to get into some case studies. I might skip through this one unless you are very interested in it, but I'm just going to show you a few things. And the reason why I've got that section is because at Imagination, we work a lot in the event space, and we need to explain to our client, okay, if you want to produce events, you would have to think about it differently. So that's an immersive escapism. If you guys don't know Mio Wolf, they're actually looking for a space in Melbourne. So they're going to come to Australia. I can show you a quick video. These guys are crazy and they're creating new worlds. So you pay to get into that world and navigate through and have a few experiences. That's it. It's like a museum of cool experiences. The reason why it's so interesting is because of the way it's been designed, just because of art, just because of creators wanting to create cool things, but also because it's been done by a collective. Just like during COVID, they got together, they wanted to create something different, and they did. And now they've just raised 120 million to actually expand that concept globally. So just to give you a little bit of sense of the power of still the physical experience digitized, the power of community getting together and actually launching movements, not just brands or spaces, That is a big trend. But once again, let me just get back to the deck. Okay, then that one I think is an interesting one. We're talking today about the metaverse. Who knows what could be the metaverse or what it is if I use that term? Does anybody have some sort of understanding of what metaverse is about? I'm happy to tell you what is my definition, if anything. Okay. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later. There's a big section about the metaverse, and we're going to go through it in detail. But everybody has a definition. Don't look at me like that. I'm sure I don't have the same as you. I would be like, you've got a definition of the metaverse. Go ahead. I feel judged. Okay, so what I think common people think when we talk about a metaverse is actually a virtual world in which you have an avatar and you can navigate through a digital world made of experiences of any kind. It could be a game, it could be retail for you to buy something, it could be just you meeting with someone, but it's immersive. It's in a fully immersive digital world. Let's use that as a definition for now. The reason why I'm talking to you about that is because there is now that notion of hybrid. How do you get into the metaverse and also the physical space? And that thing is becoming big. But just so you know, what I'm going to show you today is something we did in 2016. We actually used VR, very cheap VR. It's like the Samsung one where you had the phone on the Samsung thing. And we actually filmed a fashion show in Sydney for people to experience it in VR in Melbourne. That was for Telstra, and we were launching a new shop-in-shop in the Melbourne store, so we did that. It was the first in the world, but it was pretty easy to do. So once again, it's the reason why I'm showing you that example is to show you how connecting the physical and the digital, creating immersive experiences, and it's more based on what we're trying to achieve and the idea that we have more than the technology itself. So let me show you very quickly, and then we're going to get into some of the more metaverse-ish stuff.
One approach warehouse and keen to do a bit of both first in terms of doing a 360-degree VR live stream of a fashion show for Fashion Week. Yeah, to the stream we watched worldwide across a whole bunch of different devices and headsets.
Really exciting event today. Any of the users who are dialed into the virtual reality show can watch the model come out of the latest fashion, walk down literally underneath it, and at the end of the runway. So it's going to be a fabulous experience.
So you guys understand, let's not go through the whole case study.
The position of the camera really gives the...
So that was possible in 2016, okay? So that's not new news. What we will see now, and we're going to talk about the metaverse and the different types of metaverses and everything, it's just like the new iteration, and because the technology is evolving so much that it just opens more possibilities. But some of those things were things that we were doing before. All right, let's get into some example of the metaverse. So what is it? As we were talking about before, so it's an immersive 3D virtual world. So users interact with either experiences or each other through avatars. It's kind of a new place for people to explore, but they can also do research and they can purchase products or services. And it's mainly powered by VR, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies. All right, let's pause on that. VR, cool for everybody. Like I put a headset on and I'm immersed with who?
Is it the only way you can access it through VR?
No. Most of the, so if we talk about the two main metaverses, like where you can buy land and create experiences and get into it. And so the two main I would call Sandbox and Decentraland. You guys know about those two? They're available on the web. Actually, I'm not even sure they're available on VR. But there's a few that are available on VR. You can do VR chat, which is like an avatar kind of social network. There's a few available on VR, but most of them are available on the web. The reason why I'm saying VR is more because it's immersive. Blockchain, a new technology, you guys know, decentralized, good. Cryptocurrency, you guys know? Cool. I prefer to ask because once again, I was not an expert 6 months ago or 12 months ago. Who have ever created an avatar in this room?
Not necessarily for them.
Sorry?
Not necessarily for this stuff, but whoever has played games before.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
It can,
That's anyone, whether it's through a video game, whether it's through like Ready Player Me or any of those apps. I have. There's a couple of startups company like Jenny's, Ready Player Me that are specialized in designing avatars. Both of them are worth more than $1 billion today. Yeah, insane. So avatar creation is a huge thing. I think I am right, and I read that somewhere, but please fact check me if you can. I think that in most of the video games, including the Fortnite of the world and those games, kids are spending more time designing their avatar than they're spending time like actually playing the game. So that notion of in real life identity and digital identity, the fact that in the digital world you can be your own self, the gender is not a thing, it does work very well with the code of the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha. So it's a big thing. It might feel small because we're at the beginning, but it's already so big that I would say it's there to last. So keep that in mind, the notion, and I'm not going to play that video because you guys know what it is, what is building an avatar, but that's becoming a thing. All right, now there's a few types of metaverse, and I normally try to split them between 3 categories, but that's my own classification, okay? So don't try to find anything online that a big professor would have theorized. That's just me. I tend to split it between existing video game platforms, but that are evolutive, Fortnite being one, Roblox, like they're already like big video game platform with a massive audience. They're not built on the blockchain, and they don't necessarily have their own currency, and they are not necessarily open to brands to actually create world or buy land or do any of that. But there's still like a very immersive place where people can interact and have experiences. Pros and cons, they have an amazing and huge audience, core audience. The quality of the experience is pretty high. And they're moving in a place where they will probably decentralize and have coins. I would expect it to happen pretty soon. Cons, they are not as decentralized. They are not on the blockchain, and at the moment they don't necessarily have cryptocurrencies, but might not even be a cons. It's just the way it is. So I'd call it like Web 2.5, but in my opinion, they're probably going to become some of the biggest players. So that's category number 1. Category number 2, that's the one that we've been talking about before, which is the sandbox or Decentraland. They're like the full metaverse, the way we talk about it, because they are decentralized, they're built on the blockchain. You can buy land, you can create your own experiences, you can trade land, you can trade NFTs everywhere. So that's, and I would name, Decentraland and Sandbox as the 2 main. The last one, which is more the world we're coming from, which is when agencies like us create fully immersive experiences, but just as a one-off or just for one brand. It's not necessarily something that's very open, but you can create something, and it can be extremely high-end. It can be very specific to a specific brand. Sorry, back to the 2 metaverse, Sandbox and Decentraland. I don't know if you guys had the chance to play with it. The experience is pretty average. lot of lag. You don't really know where you are. Like sandbox, probably like if the map is that big, that part has been built already. So there's a lot of good promises, but it's still the beginning. So the experience is not as good. Cool. Back to the case study, and I'm going to put the lecture on the side. Who knows about that? All right, Travis Scott, big artist in the US. They actually created a gig in Fortnite, which is one of the biggest video game on the planet at the moment. It's not like it did last for an hour and a half. It was just a 10-minute set. There was 12 million users and participants watching that gig. So that's the kind of audience that brands or artists are getting in on those platforms. It's huge. Same, there's a video, it's on YouTube. So if you guys want to check it, you can go and check it. I'm sure you'll be fine with that. So you can use existing platform with a lot of audience to actually create experiences and connect with a big audience if you are an artist or a brand. Roblox. This one is also an existing kind of video game platform. Who knows Roblox? Okay, no, it's good. Check it out. I would encourage you to check out Roblox. I know it sounds crazy, but Roblox is like a video game with thousands of video games. So you've got a lot of video games that you choose from, and then you play with it, or you get into a world, or you immerse yourself into a world. It's mainly for kids. I think, once again, fact check me. I'm just going to give you a kind of roughly what I think it is, but I think in the US, 80% of the kids under 13 have an account. This is that, yeah. No, it's huge. Like Roblox is big. This is where kids go to learn, to play, to learn how to code. You can actually create your own video game within the game. You can create blocks, and actually it's super easy to create a world and an environment and get actually avatars to walk around. It is big. So Nike, of course, they said, oh, seems interesting. Why don't we create our Nike Land? And so same, it's free to create an account. Go on Roblox. You can access it from your laptop. You just have to download the app and then just create an account, create your avatar, be whatever you want to be, and just walk around. And just, you can walk. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, but I guess you know. So in Nike Land, you've got like sports field where you can play sports. There is a Nike World when you can navigate and discover new product and jump up and down and go all the way to the rooftop of the things. You can walk faster. There's like probably like 15 different games that you can play. You can meet with people, chat with people, buy products. You can earn coins as you play and use them to actually buy a pair of sneakers for your avatar. It's like everything in one little game. I don't have the numbers, but I'm sure there's millions of kids playing on, and not only kids actually. And this is where you're going to see that this world is going crazy. So if you think, it does make sense for Nike to create an experience there. There's a massive audience, there's a lot of people. And once again, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to give you an advertising for you to buy my shoes, they create an amazing experience and games for people to engage. So amazing. Now, Gucci is actually on Roblox. They created the Gucci Garden to actually launch one of their collection, and it was a pop-up experience where people could come, party, and buy $5,000 handbags on Roblox. So same, I'm going to play that video very quickly, but the reason why I'm showing you that, sorry, I'm a cheap YouTube guy. I don't have the paid version. The reason why I'm showing you that is because the audience is so big that even though it's more kid stuff, just because of PR, to be the first to do something and to actually be in the metaverse, you have brands like Gucci getting in and creating experiences. I'm going to ask you a question after this one. Anyway, I'm going to let you have a look. Just Google Gucci, Roblox, Gucci Garden, because it's not available anymore. I think you get the physical bag and the digital for your avatar, but I don't think it's an NFT because I'm not sure Roblox enables NFT yet. I don't think it's on the blockchain. Don't quote me on that. I think, I'm not sure. Not much. So if okay, so if you are interested, I did not plan to talk to you about how do you actually market your NFTs or how do you build your community, but the way you do it is very different to the way you would traditionally market a product or a service. It's changed. Now it's on Discord, it's on community, you build your community first, you announce something, you create scarcity, you get people to actually register to be able to buy. And there are NFT collections. I think it was the invisible one of the 3D guys, like walking, infinite walking thing. Anyway, you had to pay 2 ETH to have the right to mint one of those things. So even before you can mint it, you have to pay 2 ETH, which is, I think the ETH is probably like 3,000 US at the moment, something like that. Not that I'm looking at it every day. I'm looking at my account. Something like that. It is 3,000 US, I'm telling you. So yeah, so that's the way you market. But it could be a full topic. I mean, same. I will give you if you want the best NFT deck that you can find, there is one available that's free to use. I will give you the reference. I have it. I'm using it all the time. I'm copying everything that I'm putting on the deck. It's amazing. It's from a company in the UK. Not only, but maybe Twitter, Discord, mainly, Telegram a little bit, but like social platform and messaging apps to build the community and have actually a hub where the community connect. The website is normally to announce something or to provide like a bit more content, but that's where people would register. But most of the time they're pushed back to actually the community because I'm telling you, that's the way I'm doing it. If I want my investor to trust me, they want to see a community. I haven't started yet, but that's why I can't raise money. But they want to see the community first. So you want to have one place where that numbers grows and stays. So that's what I'm seeing at the moment. Yes.
It's not crazy to think that like with a brand like Gucci, which is very luxury, very high end, that they're all of a sudden this totally diverse, wider kind of audience that they can connect to, which is quite different, I would say, probably to main husbands, or maybe I'm wrong on that, but it just seems like.
I think two things came to mind. The first, the first one was, aren't they kind of diluting the target market substantially by tapping into a game where the average age is like 9 years old for a start? I get the strategy around it, the awareness and creating communities, but it's still kid.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. If you have 300 million users and you have 200 million kids, it's still 100 million adults.
Yeah.
So there's still adults playing Roblox. And sorry, I should have been clear on that, but there's not only kids.
Yeah.
You should see the PR they're getting for that.
Yeah.
Just Google it. You will see the number of articles they're getting, and also the quality of the articles they're getting. It's much more about Gucci is very innovative, more than Gucci is like cheap because they're on video games. It's insane. I was asking myself the same question. It's super risky to get in, but if you look at the way the high fashion market is going, LVMH had hired their creative director was a guy who just died last year. Virgil Abloh, I think is his name. He's a guy from the street fashion industry. So that's where it's going. And once again, their audience is growing, but that's their background. I mean, even for someone like me, I'm probably like 15 years older than you, at least. My codes are still also in the street, and so I get that.
I guess I totally disagree with it, and that, like, this is a closed metaverse space. It's not connected to blockchain or anything. So at the moment, there's not much potential in terms of using cryptocurrencies.
Be careful about what you're about to say, because my next thing is going to surprise you. Keep going.
The lesson of any organization, for example, we go, well, what's the dollar value for me? Because that's, I mean, it's forever marketing kind of question, but right now, I can just see there being such a massive lag between Futures and the Nikes of the world and the rest of the planet, because they've all got their, approval boards going, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 examples, and you're going to be very surprised. So, who knows what happened this week for the first time ever in Decentraland? The Fashion Week. The Fashion Week.
Which fashion week?
The Fashion Week.
Fashion week.
The same, the Fashion Week with, I don't think there was all of the brands. I don't think the Chanel of the world were there or whatever, but still, like, you should have seen the brands that were there, amazing. And brands like, you probably guys know that some brands are only digital fashion. So they actually create either NFT piece of clothing that you can put on your avatar, or piece of clothing that you look at yourself with AR and you see yourself with a dress or a jacket or something, so that if you're an influencer, you don't have to change, your clothing all the time, and you can have different photos. And I know, don't judge me. I'm not responsible. That's what's happening. So this week was the Fashion Week in Decentraland, and I think it's probably still on. Same, go online, check it out. It's huge. Do you guys know that Nike just bought a company a couple of months ago that was a company that was only doing 3D objects, 3D shoes? It's called RafTrack, RFTK something, yeah. Yeah, so I was looking at them because my project have some sort of digital fashion element as part of it. And I was looking at them saying, wow, those guys are hot. They're doing amazing stuff. Like, seriously, you go to their website, super smart, very well designed. 3 months later, bam, Nike, they bought them out. And so it's insane. And then last piece, and that's the good segue to the next case study. You're telling me, okay, so what's the revenue for us? What is the dollar value? So look, who is in the metaverse? JP Morgan. The first bank, no, but guess what? The first bank to open a branch in the metaverse to sign loans so people can buy land.
so smart. I tried to buy some of that today. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I think the smallest is like what, 12 grand?
Yeah, not even just a tiny space.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think they're signing a lot of loans at the moment. That's okay. But they are there, they're learning, they might meet with a few people. And if you Google bank, Decentraland or banking, blockchain, they come first.
you say something?
It's back on.
No, it's not the mic. It's in the iPad now. It's
Sorry.
unfortunately that one not charged enough. It's fine.
Okay.
It's just the microphone from the iPad now.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Can you click it?
Yeah.
Do you guys know what a crypto bank is? Who knows? Crypto pump. Do you guys know what a Bored Ape Club is? Okay. Those two things are the two most expensive NFT that you can find at the moment on any platform. To give you a rough idea of, I think the floor price of a crypto bank or a Bored Ape is around about $200,000. It's just like a tiny image of a Bored Ape or a punk, like very pixelized, but it's much more than that, but that's what it is. So if you just want to check, we're going to get into NFT. So let me check the time first. 10:48. When do you want to stop?
You have another hour.
Another hour?
Yeah.
You sure? You're going to hate me if
Officially
I
from 10 to 12.
Okay. All right. So it's actually a good conversation. It is good that I have that. Same, you can go online, just Google it and watch that video. Let's not waste your time. You can do it in your own time. But banks are getting in. Now, if the metaverse is about creating a digital world and environment, there is that new world that I don't like much, I must admit. It's called the metaverse. So what does that mean? That means that instead of creating your digital world into which you immerse yourself, you use the physical world, but you overlay digital content in the real world. That's more the world that I'm living in and the product that I'm building at the moment. You will understand why. So instead of using more like a virtual reality type of technology, it's an augmented reality type of technology. Do you guys know what augmented reality is? Everybody had some sort of experience of augmented reality, like you look at yourself and you have like bunny ears for Easter, or like you can drop a tiger in your living room and see it like roaming around, or you've seen that. Okay. The challenge that the world is facing at the moment, the technology and the metaverse world is facing, is that it's almost impossible to drop some digital content somewhere and that content to stay where it is for everybody to see. There are a few examples that are faking it, like Pokemon Go. You feel that the Pokemon is there, but actually the Pokemon is in your phone, and your phone gets to a point and it's showing you the Pokemon where you wanted you to see the Pokemon. But it's very hard to actually place geolocated content for people to see. But there's a big consortium of a lot of companies working on mapping out the world, so it's going to become possible very soon. Very soon, maybe 1 year, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, I don't know. It's probably the same as Google Glass. We think it's happening next year. It's probably not going to happen next year. I'd give it a solid 5 years before it becomes mainstream for consumers, but it's coming. There's a lot of people working on it. There's a lot of money being spent in developing. So metaverse is actually using augmented reality to put digital content in location. And I'm just going to show you a few examples. AR navigation. So you can start, pointing your phone at different places around you, and it's going to start giving you a few details of what the world around you is like. Still limited in some cities. It's still the very beginning, but it's starting to happen. That one is really cool. I don't know about you, but I would use it every day if we had it in Australia. So it's helping you actually find what you're looking for in the supermarket.
Everything you need to turn this
That's what we had.
to this is power.
I don't know about you, but so let's have a designer conversation. Two things that I really love. One is that insight that when you go shopping, you probably spend 20% of your time getting 80% of your groceries and 80% of your time looking for free stuff. I don't know about you, but that's me. So they came up with that idea that might sound, like crazy, but at least it's really helping for that specific insight. The other thing that I really like in that product, in the product design then, is that I don't know if you guys noticed, but when your phone is like that, you're on the map. When your phone is like this, you're in AR. It's pretty clever. I've never seen that before, and I find it pretty clever.
What's that? Because what you're in AR?
So if
when you're walking around.
Yeah.
when you look at, okay, I want my orange, and when you put your phone this way, you're in the map view. And when you look around you like that, you're in AR view. So it's showing you the things. So that little gesture is pretty clever, and I haven't seen anything like that before.
See, I just got these augmented reality ones just seem to have more relevance and value to consumers today. And so then, does it feel like there's so much hype to jump to what's Web3 in the metaverse when, are we missing an opportunity, or are organizations, corporations, businesses missing an opportunity there?
This demo reveals the capabilities of indoor navigation enhanced with augmented reality. After
there you go.
finding
What is
the
it?
fastest way to a destination inside buildings is a commonplace problem.
There you go. Sorry. My opinion, yes. And this is the reason why I'm building what I'm building. The numbers that I'm seeing, not as much. That digital immersive metaverse avatar social thing is huge. People love it. They're getting into it, even though it's the beginning. There's already a massive attraction. And there's so many people building stuff. Not my thing, probably already too old for that. But I will probably be part of some experiences. But it's growing fast. And that's also something that I'm trying to learn, and it's an everyday battle. It's kind of trying to learn not to look at your own thing, but looking at numbers and looking at data. I'm using, and I'm sharing that with you if you want to use that very, very simple tool. It's called Fog. That's a framework that I'm using. When someone is telling me, when we present a concept, I mean, you're probably familiar with that, and you've got the chief marketing officer of a company or CEO saying, but I like it blue because my son loves blue. It's like, yeah, well, okay, so let's use Fog. Fact, opinion, guess. So guess is, I'm guessing that AR is better than VR, and we're going to have more utilities using AR, and that because that's a guess. Okay. Without anything better or stronger than that, we have to start somewhere, and let's make that assumption. Opinion. Okay, I have done a lot of research, and with everything that I'm looking at the moment on my online research and the conversation I'm having and stuff, it feels to me that AR probably have more utilities, and as a result, maybe the world is missing out on something. And okay, opinion based on my own research, based on the conversation, my 10 years of knowledge of this world and whatever. Fact, okay, I have read the report from whatever, I've done X amount of research, I had 15 interviews, and as a result of that, it feels like hard data is telling us X, Y, and Z, and that's giving me those insights, and that's the way I interpret those insights. So there's different level of knowledge, and we need to remember where we are when we have those conversations as designers, whether it's designing business, designing a product, or designing any solution, or even advertising or TV ad. We need to make sure that we know where we fit. And I, as an individual, I have a tendency to come across as pretty confident in the way I express myself. And the problem is, like, because I'm confident, people think that I'm right. And I'm not. So you've probably noticed that from the beginning, I keep telling you, I'm an expert, my expertise is in there, or I have been learning for that long, or 12 months ago, I didn't know nothing about it, or that is my opinion, not necessarily a fact. So I'm trying to understand myself, to come across and to be more transparent and clear in the way I express something. So when you design, and I know it's not about today's topic, now we're getting into the tools we're using when we design, but as a designer, it's very important. And even though that tool is super simple, I would encourage you to just like make sure that you know at which level you are. It doesn't matter if we are in the opinion space or in the guess space. And that's okay, as long as you know. As long as you know that this is where you are, and sometimes it's enough. Sometimes you just like, I'm about to spend $1 million, might want to be doing some research because my opinion might be 60% true. Maps, once again, it's like real-time thing. This one is interesting. Augmented reality or content is not necessarily visual. It can be auditive. That is really cool. It's actually like building kind of trails with sound and audio content. It could be in a museum. It could be, you know, like I think it would be something interesting for Sculpture by the Sea, for example, or those kind of, or if you want to visit a precinct somewhere in Sydney or a city, or that to me is very interesting and pretty cheap to put in place. Right, NFT, big topic. Let's go. Before we go, who have heard of NFT? Who knows one platform when you can see, find, buy, sell, mint NFT? Who have been on one of those platforms? Who owns an NFT or have bought or sold or any NFT?
Everybody is part of the class. We have experience in the platform and negotiated NFTs, so that's
that's killing my questionnaire. Yeah, you're just like, okay, let me go up so I can hold on higher. Thank you very much. That's good. All right. So if you had that experience, that's good. You kind of know. Now, I think it's still going to be interesting for us to go through the different types of NFT and how they can be used and which brand is using and how and what. Before we get into that, my opinion based on a lot of things that I have read and some of the work that I'm designing at the moment, what an NFT look like doesn't really matter. Maybe my words are a little bit strong, but you understand the meaning behind. That's not the most important. We need to remember that an NFT is actually a contract. So everything that is attached to that contract, in my opinion, is much more important than the visual that's a representation of that contract. In the art world, yes, that visual is probably more important than in the sports world, but it doesn't matter that much. Now we have that and we agree on that, or you actually understand my opinion, then let's talk about some examples that I've put together. This is the Bored Ape. So impossible to talk about NFT without talking about Bored Ape. I don't know if you guys know, but the Bored Ape company have bought the CryptoPunk company, the two biggest, so now it's only one. All right, what's interesting in this one, actually I should have used another piece, but anyway, it started with like just what we call a PP NFT. PP is like personal profile picture. It's just like, and at the beginning, it was not that expensive, and then it grew in value crazy because it started getting, you know, like celebrities buying them and all that. What makes it so valuable at the moment? Because, you know, the value can go up, but it can go down as well. So the way they're trying to keep the value super high is by adding those experiences or those things that they attach to the contract, as I was talking to you about before. So it's actually now a membership level. So if you have one, you can be in that Discord channel. If you have one, you get invited to those parties. If you have one, you might get that little, you know, like thing that you can put in your egg so it changes is the way it looks like. So these are all the things that they are creating so that Bored Ape is not a thing, but it becomes a journey. I've read an article last week about someone in LA using the copyright of his Bored Ape to create a restaurant. Adidas has bought one to actually create some clothing that goes to Bored Ape, and they have a special collection. So they started to really like create those connections between the NFT and the community and what you get as a member of the community. So that's the art part. Collectible. So you guys know the difference. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. So NBA have launched a marketplace for collectibles, so you can buy and sell and you can collect like NBA big moments, whether they are like this season or the past season, and you buy them back as a pack, like you. That's a reference to something you probably don't know. Who knows the Panini Panini images? You do. Anyway, these were like when we were young, we would buy those stickers that are like the face of players in soccer teams, and you put them in. Anyway, so that's the same. That's the 21st century version of Panini pack. And you buy them like you buy 8 and you don't know which one you're going to get, and then you can trade them, you can exchange them, and you can start building your collection, which is pretty fun. Music. That's a space that I'm working on at the moment. Different things, in my opinion, that can happen in the music industry. You can either create a community when you launch a new album, which is what Kings of Leon have done, and very, very well done. So I think they made $2.5 million just like selling limited edition digital copy of the album through NFT. But what I'm working on at the moment is more about around the community. Okay, how do you get a band that have been in market for a very long time and they have a hardcore community? How do you create an NFT collection so you actually build bonds within this community? You start getting the community to participate in the history of not only the band, but the movement and all the different codes that are attached to that band and the reason why you are a fan. Is it because they're crazy? Is it because their music is good? Is it because they're like innovative? Or like there's many reasons why you want to be part of something. So there's like a few things that we can work on when we start building an NFT collection. And the same as with the Bored Ape, the bands that we're working with at the moment, we're looking at, okay, if we launch the first collection, how do we make it available for the top hardcore fans that are loaded and they have a lot of money, but also like the fans that were there from day one, but they don't necessarily have money. So I want those guys to be able to afford something for like $10 or $20, or like not even the price of a concert ticket. That's one thing. And the second thing is, okay, it's not a one-off. It's the beginning of the club. So how do we build the journey, and what are the destinations that we put along the way? So that's the way we're starting to think about designing NFT collections at the moment.
Did they solve that? How do we, like, because they're going so expensive NFTs, the Kings of Leon and can't afford like thousands and thousands.
The way we're doing it is by having different types of NFTs. So if you have a 10,000 NFT collection, 10 of them are like super, super, super premium, and they have other stuff attached to them. Not necessarily the way they look, but we will probably have a physical version of what that looks like. You might have front row gig for life if you spend 200 grand on a golden ticket or something like that. So we are building different layers, but we're making sure that there is a bottom layer that is affordable for anyone, and that is just like, okay, you're part of the club, and you're going to be a member, whether you're rich or you're not. Because it's not about money, and we can set the price when we launch. When you mint an NFT, you set the price. Nothing is stopping that NFT from going from £5, maybe we're going to launch it at £5 because it's in the UK. Maybe they're going to sell it 6 months later and it's going to be 500. I don't know. But at least we want those people to have any very, very, very interesting. I mean, I come from a world which is like experiential marketing and how do we design experiences. Now having that tool to actually create value and ownership and connection and decentralization. Honestly, it's good for us like experience designer community. There you go. So have you heard of these guys? I hadn't heard of these guys 2 weeks ago before I found that case studies. So Doodles, saying they're just like one of those NFTs that are super expensive now. And at S6SW, do you guys know S6SW? It's a big, big innovation festival in the US, in Texas, every year. So they organized a big party, but only people with a Doodle could come in. So that was your ticket to get in. There was a massive queue, and it's, as you can imagine. So same, I encourage you to watch the little video if you're interested. This one is interesting as well. How do you take that concept, which is a very consumer-led concept? Oops. You're good? Okay. How do you take that concept and you turn it in the corporate world, in a B2B space? I mean, currently, with Imagination, we are chatting, and their clients are big banks, big telcos, and so they don't necessarily think about the way they could be using it. You guys know that guy? Yeah, he's probably everywhere. I'm tired of him, but he's a smart guy that has a big community and people love him. So good on him. He's launched, he's done a couple of things. First, he's launched his VFriends NFT collection. And so with those NFT, you have exclusive experiences, which is you're going to be invited to VCon and you can have like one-on-one conversation with him. And there's a lot of actually experiences attached to it, which is amazing. He's also drawn something one day, put it as an NFT, and it's been sold for 91 million. Some of the big, crazy auction space in New York. So that's another world.
I'm surprised how good it looks though.
It's actually not bad. It's actually not bad. Let's give him credit. It's actually not bad. But I mean, if it was Picasso, actually, but it's Gary. Nah, he's a good guy. He's a very good guy. It's just I'm seeing him too much.
He's just like prints money at the moment.
Yeah, I had to unfriend him on LinkedIn. Sorry, it's not that I don't like you, but let's stop here. I think that was a lot, and probably a lot for you guys to digest. What is there? We've seen that. Oh, there's a shopping one in Decentraland, in case you were wondering. And yeah, you can use a lot of AR in stores with Magic Mirror. Same, I mean, you've probably seen Magic Mirror all the time, but you know, there's a lot you can do with demonstration. All right, let's have a quick pause or break. Any question, anything? After that, we're gonna talk about a project, like something I'm building and designing that I'm gonna share with you. But before we do that, any question, anything that attracts your attention?
How are companies working with their metaverse projects? Like they have inside teams, designers, or they work with agencies or outside designers?
Both. They depend on the project, depends on the company, but I'm seeing a lot of companies using external agencies. And it depends also on the project, but most of them are using external agencies.
And they're agencies like experts in metaverse and in Web3, because it's like a totally different marketing strategy, I guess.
Yes, but would you consider me as an expert? I've been in that world for 12 months. Of course, I come from the experience world, but that's new to me. So yes and no. You have to be very careful. It's like the beginning of the internet. So you will see a lot of people pretending that they are experts.
There's literally no experts at the moment. I just started really. And there's people who know the craft of making 3D assets. There's
Yes.
3D designers who do that really well. There's storytellers that do that really well. I think one reason why fashion is so good with NFTs and metaverse is because they understand the meta really well. Of why you buy a Gucci handbag, not because it's a handbag. It's Gucci, right? So they understand that meta level of things. So we have all these skills and craft that is there, but there's no one yet that has mastered it all. And that's the exciting process that we all are so excited about, just because we can shape this and steer this in a new direction.
So some brands have the right DNA. Nike, they have been, the shift from advertising to experience has already happened 10 years ago. So they're already well prepared. And that's why when they saw that field of new opportunity, they jumped on it straight away because they were excited by it. Some brands and some are just like, no way, it's never going to go anywhere, or we don't want to be the first, or we just don't want to touch it, or it's too scary, or what am I going to win? There's a lot of, and it's normal. I mean, it does happen. There is a notion that I tend to talk about, which is the notion of, losing my words, the corporate immune system. Organizations have an immune system to protect them from failing. And that's very complicated for us innovators because it's naturally pushing against us. Every new idea, the first reaction is whoa, 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 whoa. So but that's also normal because business is a business and it needs to keep going and make money. But it's finding the right balance. That's how. So sorry to answer your question. I'm seeing both. Another world, as you can imagine, that is doing really well in that space is the video game industry, because it's using their tools. That's what it is. It's the video game engine. The two biggest engines that are being used to design are Unreal Engine. If you want to check it out, it's amazing. Check out Unreal. They are version number 5, UA5, I think, and Unity, which is more the mobile version. But these are the two platforms that are video game platforms that are now being used to build those things.
I have to say, a key review on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So watching this, I keep coming back to, as designers and design thinkers, what did we learn from day one? We're meant to do it. Like there's the commercial side to it, but we're also meant to help communities and make things better for humans. I'm struggling to see how this isn't just going down a 100% commercial track and it's just going to leave like the communities and the, all the good in the dust. Like,
I understand the point, but I think now we're getting into philosophy, philosophical level. These are tools, like a knife. You can kill or you can cook. So obviously, because it's quite new and it's also, today you have either big organization with money, willing to invest money so they can accelerate and do things very quick, or you have kids that are really smart and they have the time and they try new things. Both things are working really well. And I'm telling you that more and more those big corporations are chatting with those kids to say, hey, you are very good at engaging with community. How can we actually work together and do it really like in the real decentralized way so that the community benefit from it? I'm seeing that. I'm not saying this is where it's going to go. Nobody has a crystal ball, but that's what you do with that. What gets me excited from a community point of view is really a decentralization view. I've been thinking about it a lot. I know there's also like bad stuff because the crowds don't always have good ideas. Sometimes they do crazy things together. So it's but rebalancing the very centralized GAFAM world where we are owned by a few companies into something that's a little bit more decentralized, I think it's probably a good thing to happen now. What brands are going to be doing, what the community is going to be doing, honestly, I don't know. And I'm going to be very honest with you on the project that I'm going to show you right after that. There's a few things that are good, I think, for the community and especially for the creator community. But I'm doing it because I had the idea and because I've been working on it for so long and now is the right time to do it. But I'm not going to save the world by doing that. And that bothers me. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I'm gonna spend quite a lot of energy, and I'm already spending a lot of energy and time and getting people together and raising money to do that, which is good. But I'm not saving the world. That probably needs my energy spending finding better solution for the climate, for example. So we all have to live with our craziness, and it's part of mine.
But to just add to that, like one of the things that interests me as well is that scientifically they equalize in the intersection between like what is desirable, what's feasible, and what's viable as well. So there are all these aspects, the human and the business side, and knowledge as well. So it's just like as you mentioned, it becomes philosophy plus there are just tools out there for us to use our ethics and that kind of stuff to create and reframe.
And that's why I know we probably forgot, but that's why I started with the human side of the equation. Hey, we're going to get into technology, into new platform, and we're going to go deep. And there's a lot of cases. But remember, we're human being, and this is what's going to drive whatever we're doing. There's another thing that I find is missing a lot when I'm reading about design thinking. We talk a lot about what our audience need. What is the need of your audience? How do you design to respond to a need? And that's very important. But the piece that's missing, if the need is there, is the want. Hey, I need a salad, but I want a burger. What am I going to eat in the end? Up to me. During the week, probably I'm going to feel good and everything. Okay, I'm going to go with the salad. On the weekend, because I had too many drinks the day before, I'm going to say I should go for the salad, and that's what I need, but I'm going to go burger. So the notion of really remembering like the human brain is not rational helps you make the balance between the need and the want, and that one I think is a little bit missing in everything I'm reading in the design thinking world.
I think if I can, like, just one thing that I would like to add, there is this theory about jobs to be done, which is about this thing that you were mentioning. So it's not just about the need, but then you put that need into a context. So I need something in the context of being healthy from Monday to Friday, and then but on weekends.
That's the value prop canvas, the job to be done, and the product that you put, and the gain and the pain, and how you remove the pain and you have the gain.
Exactly, but there is just here of the jobs to be done. If you want to get a little bit more into that, it's really helpful.
And if you are interested in design thinking, in my opinion, the new version of that is called creative intelligence by a guy called Bruce Nussbaum, and he's going a little bit more further into like how creative can actually add value to business problems sometimes. That notion of creative intelligence, that I think Bruce Nussbaum Creative Intelligence YouTube, that's like a 15-minute video that's amazing, and he goes through his deck, and so he's one of the guys who invented design thinking, and that's his new version. So have a look, because that brings creativity in. Bruce, B-R-U-C-E, and Nussbaum, N-U-S-S-B-A-U-M.
He was the editor of Business Week, right? And what he basically said is, in design thinking, what it did is it just replicated what designers do, or like it just sort of formalized what designers do, but then in abstracted from the intelligence of people, and then pretend that everyone can just use that method and come up with something good. But then you abstract from the intelligence of the designer. So he's bringing that the quality of what that is that the designer brings to the table inside of that process. It's super important.
It's honestly, it's just like less than 1 hour. I will watch that video, because I watched it and then I got into like going through all the articles, and I've got like his deck, I've got everything. So it's really interesting.
To your point, it's basically the battle between the open and the closed metaverse, right?
Yeah.
And what is interesting in the open metaverse is that we have the concept of DAO, the decentralized organization. And what they're essentially doing is completely reinventing how we govern everything, right? How we govern not just like a project, but possibly even a nation. And based on those new governance mechanisms, we could do things or design things that are really people-friendly, I assume. So the more closed the metaverse will be, the less you have those DAO structures, and the more open it will be. You have possible possibilities for the
Oh, and I'm happy with that.
So the DAO might be
Had a
the,
moment of cynicism and despair, and I'm gonna like.
But careful, decentralization is not a silver bullet either.
No, I know, yeah.
It is, in my opinion, it's time to explore it and to just bring some decentralization onto the table. But I think the world has been through centralization, decentralization. Same for government, same for a company. Like when I was working for Telstra, so it's just like
there's always a need for leadership, but also a need for participation, right? And Ethereum, I would argue, is failing at the moment because there's no more leadership, because they're trying to DAO too much.
yeah.
So the founder, Vitalik, is basically saying the community is so fighting with each other that they can't decide on a new release. So nothing new is coming out of this DAO structure either. So the leadership is lacking. So you always have this constant battle between decentralization and leadership.
And an example I'm using a lot to explain why decentralization can sometimes be complex. If the community have a right to vote on every decision you make, if you get hacked, and there is a team somewhere in Eastern Europe, not to name any place, hacking you, or North Korea, hacking you, and they start to get all the data, and like you have to react straight away. Do you have the time to ask your community, should we build that patch, and should we build the patch with that language or this one? Sometimes it's just like respond. We'll talk about the way we're going to do it later. So the time, the type of organization, the type of, so most of the DAO, so decentralized organization that I'm seeing coming up at the moment have some parts that is decentralized and some decisions that are centralized. What's better is because they're transparent about what is the centralized part and what's decentralized, but there's no good and bad model, unfortunately. Sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, I've been doing my project on decentralized, that's Zude, and I was getting into, I was like asking the mods on the Discord, and I don't think they're really getting good answers. Like the one thing that I keep thinking is going to be a problem for these metaverses, because I assume they're trying to raise funds by selling these parcels of land, like a finite, right? So my question is, like, it's already at a point where most people can't afford parcels of land, right? And that means they're already locked out of experience that you could have on the central land, right? Like a cool experience on there, having your own parcel, decorating it, making your own. So the question is, like moving forward, how do they? I think they're going to run into an issue where if people want to participate, then they're already going to get locked out of like core feature on this service. Then that means people are just going to go to another service where they can't participate, and then that means the call, like the value of that land is going to go down, the investment is going to go down. So the question is like at some point, I feel like we're running into sort of similar, like they're copying the problems we have in the real world. Like there's finite land.
Yeah, I was about to tell you that. What do you think about the eastern suburb or Manhattan?
Yeah,
the land is not going down; it's going up. But then you've got rental, then you've got collocations, then and all the problems that are. I'm going to give you another one that I find very interesting, and I don't have the answer in the NFT world. So NFT is a world of ownership. You buy something, you own something. Whereas in the real world, we're already past the world of ownership. Now we're building the world of access. I haven't bought a CD for years. You probably have never bought a CD in your life. Because what fucking CD, you would ask me. It's something like that where you have music on and you can play music. We used to buy that to listen to music. That was the only way we could listen to music. There was no Spotify. So now I don't need music, I have everything. I don't need movies, I have them all on Netflix. I might not even need a car. I can have car next door or like whatever, like car sharing. I still rent the place that I live in. I don't even own it. So the notion of access versus ownership. And I was having that conversation with naming them a big sports fashion brand. And I was just like, okay, instead of selling your sneakers as NFT, why don't we create a shop with 150 of your sneakers and people pay $10 a month and their avatar can have whatever sneakers they want, whatever. They can just change it. So I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I'm seeing exactly as you were saying, like some of the past problem of the real world being brought into the metaverse or the NFT space. We'll see how it evolves, but I think you're right.
Because I mean, even when you're talking about like, or you're talking about DAOs and stuff, so I'm thinking, okay, so only some people right in the DAO can maybe vote on these things, like maybe creating more land. But then most of the people who are probably in these DAOs who make those decisions own the parcels, right? Yeah. So they're not going to vote against their own interests and create more land to make more vibrant communities. So it's like at some point.
But it's true for everything. It's true for Bitcoin. I think like 80% of the Bitcoin are owned by like 20% of the wallet owners. And so that's why I'm telling you, like, the decentralization is not a dream thing that is going to solve every problem, because it's got its flaws. And I mean, I haven't even thought about it, like the price of the land that's now getting every single user out of the equation. Now it's for brand or super rich people, and super rich people, they have the time or they don't want to bother creating any experience because they're busy being rich. So it's like, there you go. I don't have the answer.
I mean, the interesting thing for me is we're trying to do something different.
Yeah.
We're trying to do DAOs. We have new technical opportunities. Obviously, you always replicate the problems that come with greed or lust for power and whatnot, right? So we always sort of, fall back to human desires and needs. There's new opportunities how to maybe solve things on a more egalitarian basis. Maybe, it's not going to stay like how it is now. NFTs are not going to be like they are in 5 years. Crypto is not going to be like that either. So everything's going to change, but there's this sort of new ways of doing things.
I think the difference is, I don't know if this is the difference, there's the anonymity factor, which we don't have in the real world as such. So like with that, all I'm thinking is entering cyberpunks, that's just like, you're just like creating more land and stuff and destroying decentral land, and they can't get them. I mean,
Yeah, who's driving it, right?
So we've got a complete tangent.
No, it's absolutely right. It's I think it's still worth exploring, and we haven't even started with legislation and regulation.
We can't even legislate Web 2 though.
I was like the first clients that we got into present that like future of experience presentation. One of the first response was, our CEO doesn't like digital marketing, so how are we going to get there? He's not even like in digital marketing yet. It's like, wow, okay, so that's
a mountain.
And they are in the entertainment world, so they should be like that, like trying everything they can, because if they don't, they're going to be disrupted like in 2 years. So it's challenging.
I mean, that is what happened with Web 2 anyway, right? There's only very few survived that bubble burst. So
yeah, but there's also like the notion that 3 years ago, 5 years ago, when 3D printing became a thing, we were just like, oh, no, it's going to change the world. Everything's going to be 3D printed and everything. I'm just like, well, it has changed a lot of things. I don't think that my world is like changed because of 3D printing right now. Maybe I don't realize.
I was thinking, like, who would have thought RFID tags were going to be a thing, and like QR codes? The fact that QR codes are like now so mainstream, it's like in the last 2 years.
That's a good segue. Yeah. Let's get into that if you don't mind. Let's go. Remember that, huh?